It was a quiet afternoon, and the sun was shining gently in the sky. Birds were chirping, leaves were rustling in the soft breeze, and families were enjoying their time in the park. Children laughed as they played on the swings, and joggers moved steadily along the winding paths. In the middle of it all, Samantha stepped onto the park's familiar walkway. She held onto Blaze, her loyal guide dog, as he led her carefully down the path. To most people, Samantha looked like any other person taking a stroll with her dog. She moved calmly, following Blaze's lead without hesitation. Her face showed quiet confidence, and she carried herself with grace. Many people in the park didn't pay much attention to her. After all, she was just another person out for a walk. But there was something they didn't know. Blaze wasn't just any dog. He was a special one. Blaze was a fire evacuation canine, trained to help people escape dangerous situations like fires and emergencies. He could guide Samantha safely through smoke-filled buildings, find escape routes, and even signal when danger was near. He was more than just her guide, he was a hero in disguise. However, on this peaceful afternoon, Samantha wasn't thinking about emergencies or danger. She was simply enjoying the fresh air and the sound of the birds. She liked these quiet moments where she could relax and feel the world around her. The park had always been one of her favorite places to visit. Blaze walked confidently beside her, his ears twitching every now and then as he listened to the sounds around them. He was always alert, always ready to protect Samantha if needed. But right now, he enjoyed the walk just as much as she did. His tail wagged slightly, and his steady steps showed his calm but watchful nature. Samantha loved Blaze more than anything. He wasn't just a working dog, he was her best friend. He made her feel safe and gave her the freedom to go places on her own. She trusted him completely. Even though she couldn't see the world around her, Blaze helped her experience it in ways she never thought possible. As they walked down the path, Samantha felt the warmth of the sun on her skin. She could hear the laughter of children playing nearby, the squeaky wheels of a baby stroller passing by, and the faint barking of other dogs in the distance. These little sounds made her feel connected to the world, even though she couldn't see it. She smiled softly, feeling happy and content. Blaze suddenly stopped walking for a moment and sniffed the air. Samantha felt the slight change in his movement. "What is it, boy?" she asked gently, placing a hand on his back. Blaze stood still for a second, then resumed walking. Samantha knew he was just checking the area. He was always careful like that, making sure everything was safe. She kept walking, feeling confident in Blaze's guidance. Every step she took with him felt like an adventure. She didn't need to worry about obstacles or losing her way. Blaze was her eyes, and she trusted him completely. As they made their way deeper into the park, Samantha could hear the distant sound of bicycles zipping by. Some people passed by them, chatting and laughing, but no one really noticed Samantha and Blaze. And that was perfectly fine with her. She liked being unnoticed. She didn't want special attention just because she was blind. But little did she know, today was going to be different. Today, something was about to happen that would make sure she wasn't ignored anymore. A group of bikers stood nearby, their loud laughter breaking the peaceful air. They were joking and talking loudly, their voices filled with confidence. They didn't notice Samantha at first, but as she walked closer, their eyes turned to her and Blaze. One of the bikers nudged his friend and pointed toward her. "Hey, look at that," he said with a chuckle. Samantha didn't hear them, but Blaze sensed something. His ears perked up slightly, and his body tensed just a little. He didn't like the energy coming from the group of bikers. Samantha continued walking, unaware of their stares. She had dealt with rude comments before, and sometimes people underestimated her because she was blind. But she didn't let it bother her. She believed in herself, and with Blaze by her side, she felt strong and independent. Blaze, on the other hand, remained cautious. He knew his job was to protect Samantha, and he wasn't going to let anything bad happen to her. His tail lowered slightly, and he stayed close to her side. The bikers whispered among themselves, making jokes and laughing as Samantha walked past them. They thought she was just an easy target, someone who wouldn't even know they were there. They had no idea who she really was. They didn't know that Blaze was no ordinary dog. But Samantha kept moving forward, focusing on the path ahead. The park was still filled with life, the laughter of children, the chatter of friends, and the rustling of leaves in the breeze. She didn't let anything distract her from enjoying her time outdoors. Blaze, however, stayed alert. His instincts told him to watch the bikers closely. Something about them didn't feel right. He could sense their energy, and it made him uneasy. But for now, he kept walking, leading Samantha safely down the path. As they continued, the bikers exchanged glances, a mischievous idea forming in their minds. They thought it would be funny to mess with Samantha, to see how much they could get away with. They didn't know they were about to make a big mistake. Today, Samantha and Blaze were not going to go unnoticed. Today, something unexpected was about to happen, something that would change everything. Samantha, still unaware of the bikers behind her, enjoyed the feel of the breeze and the warmth of the sun. She had no idea that Blaze, her brave and loyal companion, was already preparing for whatever might come next. And soon enough, the quiet afternoon in the park would turn into something much more than just an ordinary walk. Samantha walked slowly along the park path, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin. The air smelled fresh, with the scent of grass and blooming flowers filling her nose. Blaze, her loyal guide dog, walked beside her, his steady steps leading the way. She enjoyed the peaceful sounds around her, the soft rustling of leaves, children laughing in the distance, and the chirping of birds high up in the trees. But suddenly, that peace was broken. A loud, rumbling noise filled the air, making Samantha's heart jump. It was the sound of motorcycles, several of them. The engines roared like thunder, drowning out the gentle sounds of the park. Samantha's grip on Blaze's harness tightened slightly, and she could feel the tension in his body too. She kept walking, trying to stay calm. She had been in situations like this before, times when people didn't understand or respect her. She had learned to ignore them and keep going. But Blaze knew better. His ears perked up, and his head turned slightly, sensing the potential trouble ahead. The motorcycles came closer, and Samantha could hear the voices of the riders. They were loud and rowdy, laughing and talking in rough, careless tones. "Hey lady, need a ride?" "Oh wait, guess not," one of them shouted, followed by a chorus of laughter. Samantha took a deep breath and kept moving forward. She didn't want to respond. She didn't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing they had bothered her. Blaze pressed closer to her leg, his body tense but controlled. He was trained for moments like this, trained to protect her, to guide her safely no matter what happened. The bikers didn't leave. Instead, they slowed down and began to follow her. Samantha could hear their engines growling softly behind her, their tires crunching on the gravel path. Her heart beat a little faster, but she didn't let fear take over. Blaze was with her. She trusted him completely. The bikers circled around her, their bikes creating a wall on both sides. Samantha could feel their presence, even though she couldn't see them. Their voices were filled with mockery. "What's that mutt gonna do, huh? Fetch us a fire hydrant," one of them jeered. More laughter followed. Samantha's grip on Blaze's harness tightened. She could feel Blaze's muscles tense beneath his thick fur. He didn't react to their words, but she knew he was ready to act if needed. The path ahead suddenly felt much longer. Samantha focused on keeping her steps steady, her breathing even. She had been through hard things before. She wasn't going to let a group of noisy bikers scare her. One of the bikers revved his engine loudly, the noise making Samantha flinch. Blaze, however, stayed firm and calm. Samantha whispered to him softly, "It's okay, boy. We'll just keep going." Blaze responded with a gentle nudge, reminding her that he was right there by her side. The bikers weren't done. "Why don't you just stay home, lady?" Can't see nothin' anyway. One of them called out. Samantha clenched her jaw but said nothing. She wasn't going to let their words get to her. Instead, she focused on each step, listening to Blaze's guiding movements. Blaze could sense the tension in the air. His ears flicked back and forth, listening carefully. His tail, usually wagging lightly during their walks, was still and alert. He could tell that Samantha was feeling uneasy, and he was ready to protect her if things got worse. The bikers weren't used to being ignored. They liked to get reactions from people, but Samantha's silence frustrated them. One of them rode closer and let out a loud whistle, trying to startle her. Blaze stopped in his tracks, his body now positioned slightly in front of Samantha. She placed a gentle hand on his back, feeling his steady heartbeat. She whispered again, "We're okay, Blaze. Just keep moving." Samantha wished the park wasn't so empty today. Usually, there were plenty of people around, but at this moment, it felt like she and Blaze were the only ones there. She couldn't see if anyone was nearby to help, so she had to rely on her instincts and Blaze's training. The bikers kept taunting her, their voices echoing through the park. "You scared, lady? Maybe your little dog can fight us." Blaze let out a low, quiet growl, not loud enough for the bikers to hear, but just enough for Samantha to feel through the harness. He was ready, and Samantha knew it. She tried to pick up her pace, hoping to get past them, but they weren't moving out of her way. Samantha could hear the engines idling as they rode slowly beside her. Blaze suddenly tugged on the harness lightly, a signal that something was ahead. Samantha trusted his guidance and stepped to the side just in time to avoid a small pothole in the path. Even in this tense moment, Blaze was making sure she was safe. She finally decided to speak, her voice calm but firm. "Please let me pass." Her words were polite, but there was strength in them. The bikers chuckled. "Oh, so you can talk," one of them said, but they didn't move. Blaze took a step forward, his body slightly tense, but Samantha gave a gentle pull on his harness, signaling him to stay calm. She wasn't going to let them scare her. The minutes felt long, but finally, after what seemed like forever, the bikers began to lose interest. "Let's go, guys," one of them said with a laugh. "This ain't fun anymore." With loud revs of their engines, they finally sped away, their laughter fading into the distance. Samantha let out a long breath she didn't realize she was holding. She reached down and scratched Blaze behind the ears. "Good boy," she whispered. Blaze wagged his tail slightly, sensing that things were okay now. Even though the bikers were gone, Samantha's heart was still beating fast. She was grateful that Blaze had stayed calm and strong through it all. He was more than just a guide, he was her protector, her friend. Taking a deep breath, Samantha straightened her shoulders and kept walking, feeling the path under her feet and the confidence in Blaze's steady steps. She knew this wouldn't be the last time people underestimated her. But with Blaze by her side, she also knew she could face anything that came her way. The park slowly became peaceful again, and Samantha let herself relax. The sounds of birds and laughter returned, washing away the tension from moments ago. As she continued her walk, she reminded herself of something important: strength doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes, it's quiet, steady, and unwavering, just like Blaze. The bikers were not done with their teasing. In fact, they were getting bolder and louder. One of them, wearing a black leather jacket, revved his engine and drove his motorcycle dangerously close to Samantha. The loud roar of the engine made her heart skip a beat, but she stood still. Blaze, her faithful guide dog, immediately stepped in front of her, his body firm and protective. Samantha stopped walking and took a deep breath. She had faced many challenges in life, and she wasn't going to let a bunch of loud bikers scare her. Holding onto Blaze's harness tightly, she lifted her chin and spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Please move out of the way," she said clearly. The bikers laughed. They thought it was funny that she was standing her ground. One of them smirked and said, "Oh, listen to her. She's got some nerve." Another one, chewing gum loudly, added, "What's the blind lady gonna do? Call the dog police." They all burst into laughter, thinking they were in control of the situation. Samantha, however, wasn't afraid. She knew Blaze was with her. He wasn't just a guide dog, he was her protector, and she trusted him more than anyone else. What the bikers didn't notice was that Blaze was doing more than just standing guard. His ears perked up, his nose twitched, and his body stiffened slightly. Samantha could feel the shift in his posture. She had learned to understand his every move. Blaze was trying to tell her something. Samantha stayed still for a moment, focusing on Blaze. He was alert, but it wasn't just because of the bikers. There was something else, something different. A strange smell floated through the air. It was faint at first, but Samantha's sharp senses caught it right away. It was an acrid, smoky smell. It wasn't the normal smell of barbecue or campfires from the park. This smell was different. It was sharp, thick, and alarming. Smoke. Her heart started to race. She bent down slightly and whispered to Blaze, "Find the source." Blaze responded instantly, his body shifting into work mode. He sniffed the air, his tail stiff and his ears twitching. Samantha could feel the energy in him. He was ready to act. The bikers, still standing around, had no idea what was happening. They were too busy laughing and making jokes. One of them, wearing a red bandana, shook his head. "Hey, what's she doing? Is she talking to the dog?" Another one chuckled, "Maybe she thinks he's a firefighter." They continued to mock her, unaware of the growing danger around them. But Samantha didn't care. Right now, she was focused on Blaze. Blaze tugged gently on the harness, signaling her to follow him. Samantha trusted him completely and took a small step forward. The smell of smoke grew stronger with every step. It was coming from somewhere nearby, but she couldn't tell exactly where. Blaze kept leading her, his steps careful but quick. Samantha's mind raced. Could there be a fire? Was someone in danger? The bikers watched her curiously. One of them, leaning on his bike, said, "Hey, lady, where are you going? We're not done having fun yet." Samantha didn't answer. She could feel the heat in the air now. It was subtle but real. She could hear the faint crackling of something burning. Blaze pulled her a little faster. He knew they needed to hurry. The bikers finally started to notice something was off. The one in the leather jacket sniffed the air and frowned. "Do you smell that?" he asked his friends. The others stopped laughing. "Yeah, smells like smoke," one of them said, looking around. Samantha heard their whispers but kept walking with Blaze. She didn't need to see to know that something serious was happening. Her instincts told her that Blaze was leading her towards something important. Suddenly, they reached the edge of the park, near an old wooden shed where park equipment was stored. The smell of smoke was much stronger now, and Samantha could feel the heat on her skin. Blaze barked sharply, a clear warning. Samantha stopped and reached into her pocket for her phone. Her fingers moved quickly as she dialed 911. She kept her voice calm but urgent as she spoke. "Hello, I'm at the city park near the old storage shed. I smell smoke, and I think there's a fire." The operator on the other end asked questions, and Samantha answered as clearly as she could. She told them about the smell, the heat, and Blaze's alert behavior. They assured her that help was on the way. By now, the bikers had gathered around, their earlier arrogance gone. They watched as Samantha stood there, her face focused and determined. The one in the red bandana scratched his head nervously. "Hey, is there really a fire?" Another biker, who had been the loudest before, now looked uneasy. "Man, maybe we should have left her alone." Samantha didn't say anything to them. She just kept a firm hand on Blaze and waited. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air. Fire trucks arrived, and firefighters rushed toward the shed. Samantha stepped back, letting them do their job, but she felt a sense of relief knowing that Blaze had led her in the right direction. The fire wasn't too big yet, but it could have spread if it wasn't caught in time. The firefighters quickly put it out, and one of them walked over to Samantha. "You did the right thing calling us," he said. "That was a close one." Samantha smiled softly. "It wasn't me. It was Blaze." The firefighter looked down at Blaze, who stood proudly by Samantha's side. "He's a good dog," he said, patting Blaze's head. Samantha nodded. "He's the best." As the firefighters packed up their equipment, the bikers stood in awkward silence. The one in the leather jacket finally stepped forward, scratching the back of his neck. Sorry about earlier," he mumbled. "Didn't think you'd be, so smart about stuff." Samantha turned toward the voice and smiled gently. "It's okay," she said simply. "Sometimes, people don't see things right away." The bikers nodded and slowly walked back to their motorcycles, quieter than before. Samantha took a deep breath and turned to Blaze. "Let's go home, boy." Blaze wagged his tail and led her back onto the park path, their steps steady and sure. Samantha smiled to herself, feeling stronger than ever. Blaze wasn't just a guide dog. He was her hero, and today, he had proved it once again. Suddenly, Blaze barked sharply, a sound that Samantha knew all too well. It wasn't just any bark, it was his signal for danger. Samantha felt her heart pound in her chest. Blaze never barked without a reason. She turned her head toward the sound, gripping his harness tightly. "There's a fire," she said aloud, her voice steady but urgent. The bikers, who had been laughing and teasing her just moments ago, suddenly fell silent. Their faces, once filled with smug smiles, now showed confusion and doubt. "What are you talking about?" one of the bikers asked, stepping closer. His voice was no longer mocking, it was uncertain. Blaze let out another sharp bark, his whole body tense and alert. Samantha trusted him completely. She knew Blaze could sense things she couldn't. If he was acting like this, it meant something was really wrong. She tugged gently on his harness. "Blaze, take me there," she said firmly. Without wasting a second, Blaze began moving, his steps quick and sure. Samantha followed without hesitation. She didn't need to see what was happening, she could feel the urgency in Blaze's movements. "Wait," one of the bikers shouted, but Samantha didn't stop. Blaze was leading her somewhere, and she knew it was important. The bikers exchanged nervous glances. They weren't sure what to do. A few of them hesitated, but curiosity and a strange sense of worry pushed them to follow Samantha and Blaze. As they rounded the corner, the smell of smoke filled the air, thick and choking. Samantha coughed slightly, covering her nose with one hand. Then, they saw it. A building, not too far from where they had been standing, was on fire. Thick, dark smoke billowed into the sky, curling upward in heavy clouds. Bright orange flames licked the sides of the old wooden structure, crackling and popping as they consumed everything in their path. The bikers stopped in their tracks, eyes wide in shock. "Oh man, that's bad," one of them muttered. Another swallowed hard. "I didn't think," he started, but his voice trailed off. Samantha, staying calm, reached into her pocket and quickly dialed 911. Her fingers moved swiftly, her voice clear and focused. "Hello, I'm at the city park near the old building. There's a fire, and it's spreading fast." The operator on the other end asked questions, and Samantha answered as best as she could, all while keeping a hand on Blaze's back. She could feel his steady breathing beneath her palm, and it gave her strength. Blaze wasn't just standing there. His body was alert, ears up, and eyes scanning the area. He wasn't only guiding Samantha, he was ready to help anyone nearby. The fire was growing, and people were starting to notice. Park visitors were pointing and shouting, some running away, others unsure of what to do. Blaze took the lead, gently guiding Samantha toward a safer spot. Samantha knew his training was kicking in. Blaze wasn't just any guide dog, he was a fire evacuation canine. He knew exactly what to do in moments like this. Some people were trapped inside the building, their muffled voices crying for help. Samantha could hear their panicked shouts. She felt a deep sense of urgency. Blaze barked again and moved forward, leading Samantha toward the voices. She could hear the fear in their cries. "Stay calm," she called out. "Help is coming." The bikers, now realizing the seriousness of the situation, jumped into action. "We have to help," one of them said, running forward. Another nodded. "Come on, let's get them out." Forgetting about their earlier teasing, they followed Blaze's lead, running toward the side of the burning building where the smoke was not as thick. They pulled at the heavy door, struggling to open it. Blaze barked again, positioning himself to help guide people out. His instincts were perfect. He stood at the safest exit, ready to lead them through the thick smoke. One by one, frightened people started coming out, coughing and covering their faces. Blaze moved carefully, guiding them away from danger. Samantha stood by his side, offering calm words of comfort to those escaping the fire. The bikers watched in awe as Blaze worked like a true hero, his focus and training saving lives in real time. Sirens filled the air, and soon the firefighters arrived. They rushed into action, spraying water on the roaring flames and checking the building for anyone still inside. One firefighter spotted Blaze and nodded in approval. "Good dog," he said, understanding immediately that Blaze had played a key role in the evacuation. Samantha stood back as the firefighters did their job, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Blaze had done it. He had helped her, and he had helped others too. The bikers stood nearby, watching everything unfold. They looked at Samantha and Blaze with newfound respect. One of them, the one who had been the loudest earlier, walked up slowly. He scratched the back of his head, his voice softer now. "Hey! I didn't know your dog was, like, a hero." Samantha smiled gently. "Blaze is always ready to help. It's what he's trained for." The biker nodded, looking at Blaze with admiration. "Sorry about before. We were just messing around." "We didn't mean." Samantha nodded. "It's okay. Sometimes people don't see the full picture at first." Blaze wagged his tail slightly, sensing the tension had faded. As the firefighters continued their work, the crowd that had gathered clapped for Blaze and Samantha. Some people even came up to thank her personally. A firefighter approached Samantha with a kind smile. "You and your dog did a great job. You might have saved lives today." Samantha patted Blaze's head, feeling proud. "I couldn't do it without him," she said softly. The fire was finally under control, and as the smoke cleared, the park slowly returned to normal. People started walking around again, but the memory of the fire and Blaze's bravery would not be forgotten anytime soon. The bikers, now humbled, walked back to their motorcycles, but before they left, the leader gave Samantha a small smile. "Take care of that dog. He's something special." Samantha nodded. "I always do." As the bikers rode away, Samantha and Blaze continued their walk. This time, people looked at them differently, not as just a woman and her dog, but as a team that had made a difference. Samantha smiled to herself. Blaze wasn't just her guide, he was a hero, and today, everyone had seen it. And with Blaze by her side, she knew she could face anything that came her way.